Well, I'm joined today by Nick from the Book Graveyard. Thank you so much for taking the time and going through the hassle of this setup. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Jeff. How are you doing?
Well, I'm fine. Thank you, Nick. I had a long day and I'm confused by the time difference, even though I've lived here for 20 years. But I wanted to start first. I'm hoping to ask a few questions you haven't been pestered with already, but you probably have gotten this one. Where did you come up with the name, the Book Graveyard?
I don't know. It was just like naming a band. I just had a list of possible, and that's what I went with because it was just supposed to be. It's just vintage books, so it's books of the past.
Makes
Um,
complete sense. Yeah.
at first, when I first started the Instagram, it was called Best Before, which is a Crass album. So I was going to say it's Best Before, but I was like, that doesn't really grab you. So I
No,
thought
that's
the
a
book.
catchy name. Brook Graveyard's a great name. Yeah. And it makes complete sense when you think about it, I guess, because a lot of what you and I and a lot of others on this corner of BookTube read is probably been consigned to the graveyard by a lot of people, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think your use of music in your videos is really well done. I know I've seen some channels where the music is too intrusive. I've listened to some podcasts where it bugs the shit out of me because it's like kind of too loud or mixed
Mhm.
wrong. So yours is not only really good choice of music, but you get the levels just right. So what kind of inspired you to add music to your videos, and what was behind some of the thinking of the choice of music that you ended up going with?
I think the reason I added music was because I used to record in a basement and it was next to the HVAC unit, so it would hum. So it would cover up the hum, and also I have asthma, so I'd find myself breathing. I could hear breathing while I was talking, so it was to
Oh.
just cover up stuff.
I didn't think it was such a practical. I thought it was just because it was cool, because it sounded cool.
No, I did that to cover up stuff, and then when I first started, I wanted the channel to be really mellow, and I tried. I think didn't you go back and watch the beginning videos, and you're like,
Oh
oh,
yeah, I
this is
watched
very
quite a few.
different
Yeah. Well,
because
I mean, yeah, you. I think about a couple of them in, you were pretty much, the Nick, recognizable Nick. But at first, you were very mellow. Yeah,
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 and it was because I wanted it to be chill. I liked Jules Bert a lot, and I was like, oh,
yeah.
I want to make something that's mellow and talk about books like it's relaxing and you're in a library or the coffee shop. But it's just not my personality. My personality is obnoxious and go and fast and loud. So I just couldn't do it. I felt fake.
Well, I think that's the thing. The authenticity to find the authenticity of your own voice takes a while, maybe. Some of you guys get it right away, and I'm still working on mine, getting more comfortable with it. And I know some people, uh, it takes longer, and some people's get it right from the get-go. So, like Jake was pretty much fully formed on Pope Mortem there. He says, "Oh, you looked at my early video. I'm so mellow and trying to be professional." I'm like, "Yeah, you were a little tiny bit mellow. It's like turned
Yeah.
down to eight,
Yeah.
maybe."
Yeah. Yeah, he had it down right from the beginning.
Well, you must
He
have
knew
put a lot of
exactly what he
thought
was
into
doing.
it. Oh, he put a lot of thought into it, I'm sure. But from what I can tell you, and from what you've said, you had your blog going for a while, and you had a Facebook group, and you were posting on Instagram or Bookstagram or something.
It was the Instagram. That was where I started the Instagram.
And so this just kind of grew out of that. Then the
Yeah,
YouTube was the next step.
I had a regular Instagram where I would post records and movie reviews and games and books, and eventually the books just took over. And then that's all I wanted to talk about. So I was like, I'm just going to make another account to talk about books. And then that's how that started. And then I did the blog. I think I was doing no, I did the blog right when I started the Instagram. And and then I wanted to do the YouTube right away, but I was too chicken. Chick Can we cuss on this channel, Jeff? Do you cuss? They're cussing.
Sure, that's no
I was
problem with
chicken
me.
shit. Chicken shit.
Well, it took me a while to get up the gumption to do it too. And I know some people are just, I have some people back home telling me, that I teach in front of a group full of kids and college kids, and they're like, I couldn't do that. I couldn't talk in front of people. It helps that English is not their native language most of the time, but that's helped me get over some of the stage fright, I guess. But talking to a camera is a different, weirder prospect at first, so it just takes some time to kind of settle into it. So I was just wondering, you had, your music obviously is a big part of your life and who you are and things, and you talking about your love of punk, and you don't seem to use punk much on your channel. I guess that's the mellow vibe aspect you're going for. But do you think what kind of overlap do you see between books and talking books and your musical side? Do you see much
Uh,
of one, or?
no, not really. I think there's some people that like old books that like the same music that I do, but not a lot of overlap. And I don't use the punk music because there's singing. If it had,
Ah,
yeah, if it didn't have vocals, I've used it for intros before, but never for the background.
right. Because you have to keep it short then in that case, right? If there's vocals. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I just really I just love the vibe of your channel, especially the music you use with your word salad intro and
yeah.
the,
The
the
funky stuff.
chill out stuff through there. It's very cool. Um, and I like how you kind of march to the beat of your own drummer. You don't want to do a monthly wrap up or reading report or anything like that. You wanted to come up with your own thing, man. It's that. Did I freeze again? God damn it! It's that punk anarchic spirit that's in there still, I guess. You
I
want to do
yeah,
things your own way.
yeah. I would if I've just always been my personality. If I ever showed up to a show and I had the same band shirt on as someone else, I'd be mortified.
Ripping it off.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't. So to
Yeah,
just blatantly do something that someone else is doing bothers me. But there's certain things that I'm gonna do a book haul. I didn't invent that, right?
yeah,
I mean, there's certain
right,
things that are gonna be done, but I
right.
try to think of something different. I don't know.
I think that's cool. I was just going to ask, uh, you're a big advocate at least in recent years, it seems like, of men's adventure fiction, and I wanted to know what was your entry point for that. I'm sure the men's adventure magazine thing, I think seems to be more of a recent liking, but you were reading these men's adventure paperbacks in the past, it seems like. So, did you have a particular key title that or type of book that got you into those?
Yeah, I was the first time I seen it, I was in Half Price Books in Mesa, Arizona, and they actually had the label Men's Adventure above the bookshelf. That was the first time I
Wow,
seen it out, and I was like, "That's hilarious! Like, what the hell is that?"
can't have women adventuring.
Yeah, it was so funny, and it's just like it was part of one of the questions I didn't get to. Or maybe I did ask it, but it was just like that marketing. That was just that direct marketing, right to men, like just the blatant. It puts men right there on it. It just doesn't exist anymore, and it didn't even
No,
exist when I was coming up. When I was growing up, like, well, I guess those books did, but like movies and stuff, you just didn't see it very often. So I just thought it was funny, and I think I bought. They had the assignment series in that section, and I bought some of the assignment series, and I love those. And I just want it to be clear, those are not men's adventure.
no, and
No,
no, no.
those are
That was
espionage.
that was misplaced. So we were going to give the store points for actually labeling that, and then they put the wrong book in there.
I mean, it's close. I mean, you could argue that like James Bond and that stuff is kind of men's adventure,
I guess it's probably kicking it off in a way, yeah.
but
Especially
and
the
then
more sexy time aspect that's kind of
oh yeah,
part
yeah.
parcel. Yeah.
So yeah, but assignment is way less of that than James Bond too. So I
Oh
don't know.
yeah.
So it's yeah. So I think after the assignment, then
It
I was in
wasn't the
another.
Aaron stuff. Was it the Sam Durrell stuff that was? but because it was, or did you, because you obviously now know that's not men's adventure, but did you think at the time that this is what it is? This is all going to be like this, and the man, I'm so excited to get into this.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I was like, this is it. After I read that first assignment series, I went back and bought the rest of them that they had, which I think they had like 5 of them. And then I was on eBay, and then someone was selling like a box of them for like $50. So I had like almost all of them right away. Like that's how much I loved it. And then I was in another store, and that one's called Book Maze, also in Mesa, Arizona. And he didn't have it labeled Men's Adventure, but I knew right away what it was now. And there was a Hawk book, that Hawk number 13, the Wyatt takeover. And that, and then I was like, oh, I get it. I get this now. This is what this is. Like to a T. This is Men's Adventure. So that's when it really got crazy, the Hawk stuff.
When I was coming up a little ahead of you, I guess, a little earlier than you. uh the Mac Bolan thing was big, right? The Executioner. I had a buddy who was into the Executioners, and Phoenix Force and Able Team and all that. And anyway, so I guess maybe I didn't think about it as under that name, Men's Adventure, but I remember those. Was it Gold Medal? Was it the Fawcett Gold Medals? Or that the one that was doing the
No, Gold
bowl?
Eagle. You're thinking of Gold
Gold
Eagle.
Eagle, sorry. Yeah, showing my Men's Adventure ignorance. But anyway, yeah, Gold Eagle. So, and I know they weren't the only ones, of course, that put them out. But have you seen these in the wild? I think it's called the Outrider series. It's like one of those post-apocalyptic ones.
Yeah,
And
I think I got some of those. Let me shut this window. The air conditioning just kicked on. Okay.
but those were pretty fun. Again, we're not talking great literature at all, and like you say, there's a mile of literary quality difference between something like Aaron's novel and some of these ones, but they are good fun in
Yeah,
taking a
usually,
frame
yes.
of mind. Usually, yeah. It's got to be the worst thing of all, though, if you find one that, like the one, what's the one that I was so surprised because I haven't read any of the oh shoot, what was his name? You did the one with Eric and Paperback Warrior, you and Brian.
The Ninja Master?
No, the one on
Oh,
Eric's channel.
the Butcher, Terror
Yeah, the
Truckers.
Butcher. Yeah, the Butcher. And I was familiar with the Death Merchant, but not the Butcher. And then it sounds like you got this guy that's supposed to be this serious hit, serious guy who could kill people in all these different ways, and it's mostly just shooting them. I mean,
Yeah.
where's like Edge comes up with about 16 different ways to kill people in every book.
Yeah, I don't. I read another Butcher. I don't remember if he gets elaborate with the kills or not. I think that one's is mostly just guns because he was ex mafia. It's kind of like the Executioner, where it's probably just a gun thing.
Right. Yeah, boy, they love their guns in the Men's Adventure too, don't they? They're
They do. They
loving
take it
descriptions of
seriously.
them. You're
They
such a
know that.
mellow, kind, pet-loving vegetarian guy, and you're reading this really hardcore meat and potatoes sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's fun.
Well, now you mentioned Mesa, Arizona. Now, are you originally from uh, down in the Southwest? Are you from Ohio area?
I'm from here.
Where were you?
Yeah, I'm from Ohio. I just lived there for 10 years.
Where you had some run-ins with your punk sticker van and with the police and such.
That was a different time, but yes.
So, what brought you back to Ohio then, and to Dayton?
um my parents were retiring, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna spend time with them now. And
That's
Arizona
great.
was getting really expensive. They were trying to raise my rent like $300, and
Well, the
I was already maxed out. I was just like, this is dumb, and I wasn't in a good neighborhood or anything. So I don't know. So it's time to go.
Yeah, I've had a relative was living in Arizona, so I spent some time down there, kind of south of Sedona and such. And it's a really nice state, but I don't know if
Mhm.
I could live there full time. But yeah, that's great that you're back there, and you could spend some time with your family. I always feel a little guilty being over here away from my family. I can't get back all the time as much as I would like. Or I
Hmm.
used to go back once a year for a month or so. So I'd like pack probably the most of the same time I would spend if I was living around there in a month intense month period. But anyway, it's it's unbelievably, even though Osaka is a massive city, it's like 8 million plus people, probably if you take the suburbs closer to 12 or more a million. And yet my rent for this 5 bedroom house, it's not a huge house, but by Osaka standards it's not bad, and it's like $850. So
Wow.
well, I'm not downtown or anything, but back in my little podunk town in Washington State where I'm from, the rent there for a 2 bedroom apartment's $1,500 or more.
Yeah.
It's just
Yep.
it's just ridiculous.
Yes.
I don't know how things are in Ohio, but I have heard it's a little bit better back in the Midwest and down in Georgia and other places. It's not quite as bad. But speaking of the men's adventure, I remember you mentioning that you used to be into cryptozoology, or perhaps just paranormal in general, kind of even before the getting into books. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, I wasn't like a ghost hunter or anything, if that's what you're insinuating.
Well, I wasn't sure about that, but I didn't think
No,
that.
I
But
I just watched, I watched the stupid shows on it, the ghost hunters, which is hilarious. Those dudes are such
what
jackasses,
was
but
that? What was
it was so oh god, it's so funny. But I actually, I enjoyed it too, and it's not like I ever like I guess believed in it 100%, but
that?
I
Yeah.
wanted to. I wanted it to be real.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that stuff and like the
Was it
Mothman.
mostly ghosts then? Oh, Mothman. Okay.
No, it was all of them. It was all of them. I loved it all. I was way into all the fake creatures, all the Monster of the Week X-Files type
Oh, those are the
characters,
best, man. I can't stand the stupid mythology crap, man. Now
the
I
UFO.
have all of
Yeah.
them on Blu-ray, but I just watch the Monster of the Week episodes because
Oh yeah,
that's
totally. Yeah, I know. My wife had never seen it, so we were going through again, and so she wanted to watch every episode, and then we would get to those conspiracy ones, and she'd be like, well, what was that? And I'd be like, it doesn't matter because there's no
yeah.
answer. It's just like all this buildup and then nothing, and then it's like nothing ever happened. It's
No, they're
so
just
lame.
pulling that out of their ass, and they're
God, it's
rewriting,
so bad.
and
Yeah.
they're basically just shucking and jiving to something. Let's throw something else, spin another plate in the air to keep their attention from the fact that we don't know what we're doing. Yeah, but the Monster of the Week stuff, there's so many bangers of those, man. Even the weaker ones I enjoy. So yeah, I love that kind of. I grew up, of course, in the Pacific Northwest, so Bigfoot's pretty well. I was never 100% sure about that, but especially Nessie, I was always really interested in Nessie and the Loch Ness monster. And I remember being pretty disappointed when I did a study abroad when I was 21 over in England, and I met some American friends, and we went up to Inverness and Loch Ness, and we did the little boat tour where they have the little sonar going and stuff. And I was super disappointed. It's like a big bathtub. It's just like a big flat. I had seen some In Search Of talking about all these little, kind of underground tunnels that led out to the sea from there, and
Uh-huh.
it's all bullshit, man. There's like one little kind of area where it can,
It's just a pond.
and I mean it is deep and it is
Yeah.
dark because of the peat. So and it was cool to be there, but you know, that's kind of stuff I'd love to. The cryptozoology stuff, I'd love to believe that, but I'm pretty skeptical these days. But
Yeah.
I still like, reading the stories about it and stuff. And there's some cool stories in this book. So
Yeah, I haven't.
anyway,
I just got that one. I haven't read that one yet. But yeah, I'm hoping there's some Mothman stuff in there. The Mothman was always my favorite.
um, Yeah, well, one of the things I really like about your channel is how diverse your tastes are. You have a lot of, obviously some genres you're not into as much. Science fiction seems to be a sometimes genre for you, but you cover a lot of different things. That's really cool to see because I also like a lot of different genres. We don't have 100% overlap for sure on things, but you you're more into horror probably than I am, and I'm more into probably golden age detective fiction and stuff way more than you are. But um, I think we have both have kind of a lot of different kinds of genres and subgenres we like. So that's really cool. What do you think feeds into that for you? Do you just a diverse set of interests, or did they just kind of you gravitated to certain genres easily more than others? What do you think?
I think when I was discovering it, I just was trying everything, and then some stuck out more than others. And a big inspiration is the Paperback Warrior, and they would talk about a lot of stuff also. I mean, I pretty much just, did what they did when I started. Uh,
I mean, you're
shameless.
doing your blog and stuff. You mean
Yeah. Yeah.
imitation is the sincerest form of flattery,
Yeah.
as they
I was
say.
once I met Eric and started talking to him, I was like, I'm glad he's not like, you bastard. You stole
I
my
don't
stuff.
think I think you got very different approaches. So that I don't think anyone watching either of your channels would you're covering some similar material, but looking at it in a very different way, which is cool. Well,
Yeah.
so you
Also,
want
I
to talk a
don't,
little bit? Oh,
I
sorry,
was
go
gonna
ahead.
say the sci-fi stuff is very much covered, the vintage sci-fi on YouTube.
That is true.
So it's maybe why I don't gravitate towards it, because they got it and they got it good.
That's
So
very
yeah,
true.
I can't compete with
You
those
got you
guys.
got Richard and Vintage SF and
Oh, all of them.
Ira and
Yeah.
Matt and those guys, yeah, and of course Jake, covering the pulp end of the spectrum there. Yeah, that's true. It's like the heroic fantasy stuff, at least the 7,000 page trilogies and stuff that they're going on about often on some of the fantasy channels that Steve Donahue makes fun of. But yeah, well, I was wondering about that, if that was part of your kind of iconoclastic nature, that hey, that's covered a lot, and I don't want to play in that big sandbox, and where someone else has covered it already.
Yeah,
Want to
it is.
discover some gems.
And I also have encountered a lot that I didn't like. So I was just like, I don't know about this. It just I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I don't want to talk trash online, Jeff.
Well, with the back double header of Dancer from Atlantis and the Reassembled Man, I can't say as I blame you too much there.
Yeah.
Um, Science fiction, I like a certain kind of science fiction, and probably a less highbrow science fiction. I like the more space opera, pulpy stuff, I guess. I haven't read a huge. I'm aware of it. I kind of read around the corners, and I read a lot of short stories and such, which is probably where my preference for it. But and of course, I have, like I talked about with Steve, on heroic book adventures. I have read quite a bit of fantasy, but I'm a little um, tired of some of the more modern fantasy stuff. Prefer to go back to the older things. What kind of got you into pulps then? Was that something that you were reading stories or novels that grew out of that, and or the men's adventure stuff was the um, kind of the descendant of that, and so you wanted to go back more into the roots, or was it just kind of
I
uh,
don't I think I was just I was at a record store and they had amazing stories or something. And I was like, these look so cool. It's just they
hmm,
look cool, you know? So it was before the men's adventure.
okay?
So
Yeah,
I had those before. And they were it's so funny to say now, but they were easier to find in the men's adventure magazines and
that
stuff.
is so funny, isn't it? Yeah, that's crazy. I guess they just seem to have more intrinsic value to start with. I liked what Bob
Mhm.
and Wyatt were saying, how they were just disposable. Like, I guess, are you going to keep a McCall's or a Red Book or a Sports
Right.
Illustrated when you're done? Probably not, right? So,
Oh yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't a maybe National Geographic people collected or Smithsonian or something. But
Hmm.
yeah, now everyone's going, why did I keep those?
Oh yeah.
but you got quite, you have what, at least a couple dozen pulps now, don't you? You seem to have quite a good assortment
Yeah.
going there.
Yeah. Probably around that. Yeah, like 20 some. Yeah, that store that's by me, the bookery. He gets them in, and there's always some there. But the weird tales, they come in and then they're gone. You got to get
Yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah. I liked how you laughed at me when I said something like, "Oh yeah, you should try to find that if you want to find that one, Seabury Quinn one, I think it was, or with or the Robert E. Howard. I forgot. Something I mentioned that. Yeah, you should try to find this pulp or whatever." And you're like, "Haha, very funny." Margaret Brundage cover with Robert E. Howard and H.P.
Yeah.
Lovecraft in there too. No chance in hell,
No, I mean I could maybe find it, but it'd be $1,000.
Yeah, I'm sorry. As cool as that is, I think all those pulps are really cool, and I think it's cool you have some. And I think I have one Weird Tales and one Doc Savage or Shadow pulp uh, back in storage, just that I found somewhere in Pike Place Market in one of the bookstores there in Seattle area years ago. But I never got into collecting them much just because of the cost. And I'm fine reading a paperback reprint of something. I just think it's cool that they have a couple representations of it, just like you got some you know men's adventure mags now to kind of.
Mhm.
But the way those guys curate stuff, you're getting kind of the cream of the crop, I guess. But
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When I got those magazines and I started flipping through them, I was like, it's probably a good thing that they go through and pick out the good stuff because there's lots of stuff not worth saving in there.
that's for sure. Well, if you had to pick, uh, well, let's before we get to that. Sorry, I wanted to ask also. I'm asking you a lot of entry point kind of questions, I guess, but with the Gothics, I think it's so fascinating. Not just yourself. Thomas McNulty has talked about them, and Brian on Bad Taste Books has talked about them. Maybe eh, following your lead, perhaps, and other people. And I was kind of surprised by that because I always, kind of poo-pooed them, thinking that just, you know, slightly more melodramatic romance books with maybe
Uh-huh.
cooler covers. But um, you've gotten my interest really peaked, and I'm kind of curious what got your interest peaked on these things. Did you just happen to pick one up and
I
try
think it
it
was
out?
no, I think it was well, it's sort of. It was Instagram. People would they would just post the covers, but I don't think anyone was actually like reading them. They're just like these are cool looking. And then I seen them in the book maze in Mesa, and so I bought some, and I was really surprised at how much I liked it. I thought it was just gonna. I was like, here's gonna be this stupid thing that I'm gonna make fun of, but it wasn't. It was awesome.
What percentage of them have that you've read since would you put in the plus column? 50%, 60%? Are most of them
Oh,
pretty good?
higher, yeah. I think
Really?
uh, I think only one was bad, and coincidentally, speaking of Paperback Warrior, he has a bunch on his blog, and the one that I hated, they hated too. I was like, oh, okay, good.
Great minds think alike.
Hmm.
I'm going to follow your advice for next time I'm back there. I can't remember which authors my grandma had. I'd mentioned before that grandmother was reading those, as well as Georgette Heyer, Regency romances and things. Yeah, I just I can't remember any particular authors or anything, but I definitely remember the lady standing and kind of brooding in front of a castle or running away from a castle or whatever like that. So I wish I had been around to grab those after she passed.
Mm.
So, but
Yeah,
uh,
I never thought I would have liked it, but after like once I was aware that of genre fiction as a thing, then I started like testing them all. You know, like oh, the vintage sci-fi, and then there's the sword and sorcery and the Gothics, the men's adventure, whatever, the old crime. And just not being let down. No matter what genre I tried, I was like, this is all so awesome. So I was like, oh, these Gothics are included in this, then let's check that out.
That's cool. That's really a inclusive way to look at it. Some people get in their little niches and stay there, and I certainly, designated them to the romance trash heap, it sounds like prematurely. So I'll definitely look into some of those. When you mentioned the mystery aspect, of course, is a big draw for me because I'm a big mystery fan. So that's very cool. What else did I want to talk to you about? Let's see. Oh, that's what I was.
I
Yeah,
never would have
sorry.
read. I never would have read a Western if it weren't for other people hyping them up. Never. The Cowboys? No. Screw that.
Yeah.
But then I read one. I was like, this is amazing. This is so good. And I think the first one I read was a Louis L'Amour.
Yeah.
Which is like kind of the mainstream. And usually it's the ones that are the bottom tier that I enjoy more. But so I got the Louis L'Amour and I was like, that was awesome. That was amazing. Then I read more and I was like, these are all good.
I know Tim at Secret Fire Books has been struggling a bit with L'Amour, and maybe he's got some of the less impressive ones. But any L'Amour I've read has been really fun. So, and of course, he
I
didn't
mean,
do just West.
he only wrote 1,000 books, so
Exactly. Yeah.
they can't all be
Yeah.
good.
Well, Steve Donahue was talking recently in some of these June on the Range videos about some writers who legitimately wrote like 800 to 1,000 westerns. And I know the guy that does the Larry and Stretch westerns. Um, what's his name? Mears, maybe it's so Leonard Mears. He writes under Marshall McCoy and anyway, he and Marshall Grover. That guy wrote 400 of just that series, 400 plus. I mean, and he's from Australia writing these really cool westerns. It's just wild. But yeah, I've been a huge Western, as I mentioned on my channel, a huge Western movie and TV fan for years. And I just, for some reason, had friends growing up reading Louis L'Amour religiously. And I just said, but why would I read a Western? But I'm really liking them now. So it's time to kind of spread my book taste a bit. What I need to really work on more are some of these classics, that I read a bunch of them in college, and I'm glad I did. I have some knowledge of some of their work, but they don't hold much appeal for me these days. I like I told Brian, I like wading in the shallow end of the genre fiction pool, I guess,
Yeah.
rather than
What classics are you talking about?
like
Moby
stuff like
Dick or something?
yeah, Moby Dick and War and Peace and all the usual titles that. And I'm sure Moby Dick's great. I like Jules Bert's video about how to make it more approachable. Usually when you do take the time to read a lot of those, they are great works of literature. But I'd rather just read something fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of more my taste, I guess. But I do sometimes feel a little sheepish that I'm an English teacher and I don't read a lot of I'm not up on Shakespeare and all that stuff. So I
It's
studied it.
overrated.
I studied it. Yeah, yeah. Who
Why
is this hack Shakespeare anyway?
why read Shakespeare when you could read Hawk?
Exactly. Well, I guess that was leading me to the question of if you had to. I mean, you have a lot of different genres you like. If you had to choose one that's your favorite that you gravitate to the most quickly, which one would that be?
Probably the crime books, which
Like,
I would, because it kind of, the men's adventure is crime too, and the espionage is crime also. So I
yeah,
guess I'm
it's
just kind of
all
like
crime.
ballooning it out as much
Yeah.
as I can get.
Westerns are frequently crime, so yeah.
Yes, that was a cheating answer.
No, that's a good answer. No, yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. I approve. That's one of my favorite genres too. But I do really like the fantastical, or that's why the X Files is so clever. It's a good way to update the Kolchak, the Night Stalker show, and
Mm-hmm.
and combine it with the FBI and weird monster stuff. It was a genius piece idea. So I've always liked that kind of intrusion into the regular kind of genre with kind of the hybrid stuff where they. I don't necessarily like it when there's 16 genres going on at once. That kind of mashup is maybe a little too crazy, but
Mhm.
two of them blended together. Like a spooky western or a crime book with some horror elements or something. Those
Mhm.
are fun.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to ask you some of your video questions. What have been some of the most popular videos that you made that surprised you that they were so popular, I guess, or that maybe and the ones that you thought would have really hit or you thought you were particularly pleased with that didn't get as many views as you might have liked? Or there anything like that that comes to mind with your
All
channel?
of them. Um, I no. What the only one that's was popular was the top 10 80s horror paperbacks. But I kind of thought it would be because that's popular.
Yeah, the top. I know a lot of channels talking about how to, hit on YouTube is do mention a top 10 or a top five or something. But I don't know, man. You've done really well for as short as you've been doing your channel. You've done really well, I think. So,
That was yeah,
all
that
you
was the
guys, you
biggest.
and
That
Jake.
was what?
Oh, I was just saying, you and Jake and Tim have all done really well in a short period of time. So it's just interesting to see some people that take a long time to get hit 1,000 plus, and those that do it pretty quick. And I think you guys put a lot of time in your videos and lots of creativity, and that helps a lot, I'm sure.
And yeah, and coming together also because
Yeah, I
then
guess
it was
that's true.
like people that you know jumping around from channel to channel. Then if someone watches it on another one, then they go follow the other people. That was Jake's
Yeah,
idea, by the way.
yeah, that's
He's
cool.
the mastermind.
Yes. Um, well, but then again, then you guys go and do your own thing, which is really cool too. So it's nice that you do your own thing and then come back together because your own channels have really distinctive vibes, and then when you come
Mhm.
together, you mesh pretty well. So I think that's cool. What I guess um, when you started off your channel and where it is today, has it changed from your initial vision of what it was going to be, or is it pretty much um, where you wanted it to be when you started?
Uh,
Makes sense.
no, no. I think it's what I had intended, but I just keep tightening it. I think anyway, but I don't know.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've definitely seen it. In fact, you were hitting it pretty well by week three or so, I think. But certainly the last 8 months or so, it's very recognizably you know uh, very similar tone and vibe. I'm hoping to keep improving mine, but it seems like I still keep just jabbering in front of the camera and talking too long. So I got to do some more deeper thinking to fine tune my channel.
When I was talking to Chris from Speculative Reader, he said that his biggest problem is he repeats himself. He'll go and watch his videos and he'll be like when he's rambling, he just says he just keeps saying the same thing over and over. And then once he pointed that out, I was like, "Oh, I'm doing that too." So now when I edit, then I'm like, "You already said that. You've already covered that. You don't need to reiterate it." And I
Yeah,
think just having conversations with other channels and what they've figured out, then it's something that just like opens your eyes. You're like, oh yeah, that's how to
yeah.
tighten it
Yeah, one of these days I'll pick your guys' brain, have you dissect and be brutally honest on my videos and give me some feedback on how to trim them down. The thing I keep noticing I'm doing is, I don't know, I haven't figured out yet how to have some notes. I don't like to make a script per se, but I do. I was doing this video today. It hasn't gone live yet about Earl Stanley Gardner's one of his crime series, The Cool and Lamb. Have you heard of the Cool and Lamb books? The
up.
under the title the author name A.A. Fair. anyway, I got some pretty cool vintage ones of those, and I was just doing a fun little video and enjoying it. But I had the list of when they all came out and stuff like that, and I had it down. And when the way I'm sitting in the camera, I keep looking down and showing my stupid top of my head while I'm looking at stuff. And I've thought about putting it on the computer, but then I'm squinting at the thing, and so I'm trying to figure out a way to you guys are very good. I noticed in the Eames chat that you're very good at just staying still, kind of staying in the center of the camera, or Jake kind of, I guess, at an angle, but not jerking around a lot. And that's something the sense of space, I need to kind of get better at that, I think. And my face on the camera, there's just lots of rookie stuff that I'm doing still, I guess.
Well, I have a script. Yeah, I type up the script, which are all those are on the blog. What you're seeing on the blog is my script. It's the typed out review. And then so I tape it on the stand underneath the camera, and then I memorize a couple lines. But then when I'm reading it off, I'll add to it too as it comes, so it's more natural. So I'm not just like and then.
Well, I thought you were maybe doing that with you're doing those kind of I guess I forgot what you called them, but the short flashback kind of reviews that you were doing of
Mhm.
several books. But I didn't know you were doing that with your new one so much. That's interesting. I
Yeah,
know
all
Jake
the
mentioned he
reviews.
uses a script.
All my reviews are scripts. But the quickies one, I hold the paper and I read it legit. Like I'm not trying to memorize anything. I'm just getting it out there.
Yeah, I tried writing up a script one time for one, and it just I just ended up just going off myself with it. But
Mhm.
I used to, I don't, it's long defunct now, but back about, oh, 13 years ago, or 13, 15 years ago, I had a movie and TV blog, which I ran for a couple of years. And, I've always, liked writing and such. So I enjoyed that. It was a lot of work. So eventually ended up stopping it, but I ran it for a couple of years. So, and I've repurposed some stuff from that past stuff in other locations like discussion boards and things. But I'm not sure how I'm gonna what I'm gonna change for the future of my channel, how I do things. But I should probably think of something better than looking down at books and stuff. What was this printed? So with my stupid top of my head showing at the screen. But anyway, that might be my thing. That might be my thing now. I don't know.
Sometimes it doesn't matter. I love if you ever go back and watch some of Bad Taste Books old videos. He'll like knock the camera over and then it'll flip upside down and then he'll finish the video upside down and he doesn't redo it or anything. He just put it out there like whatever. And I
That's
just thought
part of
that's
Brian's charm, man.
exactly. And that's what you need to also figure out is you know, what of you is coming out. You don't want it to be so trimmed down that you're not you anymore, you know,
Right,
in an
right.
act of trying to be
Yeah.
professional or
Well, that
whatever.
definitely, if it's too slick, it's definitely not me. So, yeah, I'm definitely not never going to be a Mr. Slick, but 100%. Speaking of the wobbly camera, man, that annoyed me I was doing that flip through of the MAQ Westerns issue, and
Mhm.
I forgot to put because I have the tatami mat floor here, and the camera tripod is unstable, and that it shakes on that tatami mat floor. So I should have put it on a flat. I have like a flat board I can put it on, but I must have jiggled it or something, and it's going oh, at the very end of the video, and I was like, but my audio is coming through, and I don't want to cut it
Mhm.
because I'm saying goodbye to everybody then, so um, and I didn't notice that happening at the time, of course, right? So if it's after
Right.
recorded, so I'm not gonna, unlike Tim, who said he records over and over and over and over again until he gets it right. I'll edit like crazy, but I don't want to, completely do away with something that I've spent 18, 20, 30 minutes on, so maybe I should, but
I don't know. I've done many things over and over again. I've recorded whole videos, edited it halfway, and then be like, I hate this, and then I go do it again.
Oh man. Yeah, well, it is like you say, it's even if there's not a tons of viewers, it's there for posterity probably until you get rid of it. So I guess you don't want it anything that's you're not willing to stand behind up there with your name on it. So I can
Mhm.
understand that sort of uh, that level of perfectionism for sure. But do you use your phone? Do you use a camera? Is that something you'd be comfortable talking about? What your equipment is that you use? Do you have
For
like
the
a for you recording your videos?
I just
Usually,
use the
you're
phone.
using. Mm. Yeah, mine
Yeah,
seem to work pretty
yeah,
well for.
yeah, the phone's fine. Those are very nice cameras. And for the live videos,
Yeah,
I had to use the laptop, which is why it looks different.
yeah, yeah. It's yeah. I'm using my laptop for this too, and for the Eeps chat I did. But I use my phone for my videos. Although I felt so stupid about there's one video and it's one of my least watched ones, which is just as well. I mean, this might be the reason why. The Madman Theory review, the Ellery Queen writing as Jack Vance writing as Ellery Queen video I did. I even went to the
Mhm.
trouble to go outside in cherry blossom season here and film stuff, and I filmed it in HD. But for some reason, I exported that video in like 480p or some shit like that, and uh, you know I had must have somehow burned out. I deleted the on my phone the original video, so I couldn't do it again. And by the time I posted, I didn't realize it. Right, I said, why does it later? I'm watching it like a week later or something, or several days later. Why is it kind of fuzzy? It doesn't look very good. It's 480p. It's SD. What? So that was really annoying. But again, that was one of my earlier videos. Hopefully, I won't be quite so stupid now. I'm very carefully watching. Yes, it's 1080p exporting now. Anyway, well, you probably have to go pretty soon, so I don't want to keep you. Is there anything you wanted to talk about that you got upcoming? I know you got you're gonna interview again, or I guess maybe we shouldn't use the word interview. You're gonna have Bob Dice and Bill Cunningham on, right?
Yeah,
Coming up soon.
for the Men's Adventure Quarterly. I don't know if we decided if that was live or recorded yet, but that is coming up. Uh,
Well,
on
there was, I mean, you had a heck of
yeah,
a time because those guys Bob was going off so much and they were talking so much and it was all great stuff, but it was hard for you to pull up people on the chat because they were moving from one thing to the next. But they seem to be keeping one eye on the chat and answering questions that come on the chat.
they
It was
were.
pretty
I'm
impressive.
telling you, they were on it. They. I have. It was cool because I had met them before. I met them at the last Pulp Fest, so I met them in person first, and so I've talked to them before. But they did
They seem like
a
great
panel.
guys too.
They did a
Yeah,
panel at the Pulp Fest, and they were yeah. It was just so it was so good. It was on the spicy stories in Men's Adventure magazines.
good spicy stories, nice.
So they
Yeah,
were
they seem such nice, genuine fellas too. And I know because I was a member before I knew BookTuber, knew you or anyone or even Paperback Warrior. I was a member of that Men's Adventure Library Facebook group, and
mhm.
you know, sometimes checking out mostly just for the cool covers and stuff. And Bob would always come up with some colorful when he'd welcome people. He'd say, "Welcome Jeff Flugel, who's samuraiing up in Japan," or whatever. He'd come up with
Yeah.
some cool way to introduce everybody. So he just seemed like he seems like a very welcoming sort of guy. And I got the
Yeah.
same vibe from Wyatt, and I imagine all those guys they work with are probably pretty cool. So did you approach? I'm assuming you approached them to do this the previous live stream. Did you guys
Yeah.
had you been batting it back and forth for a while, or
No, I'd been wanting
you
to
just
do it.
had the
I think I was I I'd been wanting to interview people since I started. I wanted to have people come on and interview them, but I was nervous about it. And then we started doing the Ebes, and then we did it live. So I was like, okay, I'm starting to get used to the group thing. And then when the first guest that I had on my channel was the Chris from Speculative Reader, Then after I did that, I was like,
Mm,
okay, I think I can do this now, because that was sort of like an interview where I was in charge of the video, I was in charge
yeah.
of, guiding it or whatever, and so once I did that, then I was like, okay, I feel better about it now. Now I'll ask them, and I asked them too because I met them in person first, so it was a little less scary.
I just thought it was cool because I'm guessing I haven't seen them interviewed much on YouTube or anything. So maybe no one had the gumption to ask, and you just happened to have the idea and ask, and you had the platform to do it. So,
Well,
and a built-in audience, obviously.
they were on
They're on
Terrence
Eric's channel
Leahy's
first.
channel. No, they were on Terrence Leahy, the Suit Up podcast. Suit Up,
Oh, I'm not
Terrence.
familiar with that. Uh,
Yeah,
Suit Up podcast. So is it a video podcast that he does?
so it's under his name, Terrence Leahy. He has a YouTube channel, and he's an independent author. So he interviews other independent authors, but he also interviews publishers like Bob and Wyatt and Bill. And he's had Charles Arday on, the Hard Case Crime
Right.
owner. So he's been on a couple
Well, I'll look
times.
Okay, I'll look into that. I wasn't aware of that podcast or YouTube channel. That's cool.
I actually, in the if you go to the my live conversation, I link his conversation with it in the description.
Okay, I'll look for that. Thanks. Yeah, well,
Mhm.
you must be excited for having another one then, and and talking about the Men's Adventure Quarterly. So, and I don't know much about Bill Cunningham other than he seems to be equally creative layout genius like Wyatt Doyle. So, because those
Yeah,
magazines look amazing. So.
yeah, they do. He did one of the Paperback Fanatics too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've seen you do flip throughs of those. I haven't actually checked one of those out yet, but they seem very cool.
Yeah, that's another inspiration was the Paperback Fanatic. Once I saw that, and he does all the genres too, and his are even more specific stuff that I just like the naval history genre, just stuff that you're like, the samurais and ninjas, and he breaks it down, and he's like, here's where I forget. He breaks it down into the minuscule sub genre, and you're just like, this is unbelievable. And he gets like these other collectors, other people who write about it from all different aspects of the collector world. Some have blogs, some are just they write books, and man, the Paperback Fanatic is so awesome.
Oh, cool. Well, I'll definitely look into picking that up because that sounds very cool. I've only dipped my toes in the nautical history, historical adventure, not waters. I've read some Hornblower and some Dewey Lambden, and of course, I'm a big fan of Patrick O'Brien. But I was surprised years ago when I went into Powell's Books. They had a nautical fiction section there. So, and I'm sure other bookstores do the same. But I was like, oh, I didn't even know this was a thing, other than the big names, right? So
Yeah.
that kind of specialization is really cool. Anyway, any last things you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about that's coming up on your channel? I know you'll get much more views about it than you will here. But anyway, anything
Well,
that you
I don't know if you've seen the view counts of my videos lately, but
no, I think you're
um,
doing pretty well, man. Yeah.
the next Ebs is the speaking of Men's Adventure, we're doing the Destroyer number 33 Voodoo Die.
Man,
That's what
I got
that.
reassembled man and Levi gets the destroyer, man. What's that about?
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't start celebrating yet, but Real Simple Man was pretty bad. So yeah, our guests that
I
time
hope
are
you
going to
like the
be
destroyer. Sorry.
the special guests are Levi, the Outlaw, Levi Wallace, and Dave from Vintage Paperback Reader.
Right, cool. That'll be cool to see him. I've only recently subscribed to his channel. I've seen him commenting on people, and I want to check him out more. Um, well, I hope you end up liking the Destroyer more because I have enjoyed the ones I've read, and it's got to be better than the last couple you've read. I would think at least it's got to be
Yeah.
livelier anyway.
Right.
As far as the reading material, I really enjoyed the chat, so it didn't. I'm just joshing really, but because I
Hmm.
was happy to be, I was just pleased to be invited, and thanks for that. But yeah, I just thought it was ironic as always. The next one is a destroyer. What?
Yeah.
So anyway, but that should be really cool. I look forward to those and whatever else you got coming up next. I really thought your video on CL Moore was both of those were just great, and that was quite a find with her recording. I did had no idea she'd recorded herself, and
Yeah. That
that's
was crazy. I was so excited when I found that.
oh, that's great. And you put those together really well. So, like Richard at Vintage SF said, he was like, I'm not even going to touch CL Moore now. You did such a good job. So,
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, that made my day. That was awesome.
well, thanks again for taking the time to chat with me a bit, Nick. And I don't know if I covered as many questions as I was hoping to, but I think we covered a pretty good base here. And I really like what you're doing. I appreciate you supporting my channel from the get-go. You were really, really there with the comments and shares and stuff, and I really appreciate that. And you seem like a heck of a guy, and it's been fun to get to know you a little bit. And I look forward to what's coming next with your channel.
Hell yeah! Thank you, Jeff. Like I said, you're one of us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be one of these guys in this corner. I'm enjoying it quite a lot. So, and lots of people. The only problem I'm having is keeping up with everyone, man. There's so much good stuff out there, and I have a hard time giving everyone the attention they deserve. So
Oh yeah,
it'll
I
be easy.
know. Yeah, it's
It'll
yep.
be easier when I'm on a break, but now I'm kind of slammed. So,
Well, you don't have to
but
watch everything. Just remember.
yeah, yeah, I kept that in mind for what you and Jake were talking about. How at the beginning, when he made his really cool video about starting a BookTube channel, how you're like, yeah, at the beginning I was following everybody and checking all this stuff out, and then you just kind of find your people. So yeah,
Hmm.
and there's definitely some people who I admire and I like what they're doing, but they're not ones that we're not playing in the same sandbox, I guess. So
Hmm.
like I said, I'm over here in the more junky fun side of the of the booktube universe, I
Yeah.
guess. So I'm enjoying that anyway. But thanks a bunch. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you around YouTube and booktube, I guess. Take care, Nick. Thanks a
All
bunch.
right. No problem.